What's up, Myles?
Yo, Brian, what up?
What up? What do you think the over under is on today's on getting some, I don't know, some sirens on my end, maybe some fire alarms.
How are you gonna top that?
I don't know.
What would be the next? What would be the next tier? Like if sirens was a Pokemon and it evolved into fire alarm, what would be like the third?
I mean, you guys can see. You can see out my window now, so I'm assuming a nuclear blast occurring behind me as we just watch the smoke billow toward my window and eventually take me out. I think that's the logical next step. And honestly,
that'd be pretty epic.
I mean, I'm ready. Like that's how I want to go.
Yeah, to be fair, I thought about that as well. But you know, because this is going to get really dark. If there's going to be a nuclear bomb, you want to be as close to the bomb as you can be. Like, I want to literally headbutt it just before it hits me. Like,
nice.
You know, I think that's the way to go. That's how I'd like to go.
I mean, do you want a visual record of it? Like, do you want like your viewers to be like, oh, he was talking about empathy, and then like he got through the syllable M. And he just never finished the word because he headbutted an explosion.
A nuke.
Yeah,
that'd be epic. Yeah. I mean, it'd make a good profile photo for your social media.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how much use it would be after that though.
I mean, I hope that you would take over my socials if a nuclear bomb took me out.
I'm sure there's a way of faking it. I don't think we'll have to do it for real, but who knows?
Well,
all right, well that's cool. I'm gonna be searching that afterwards on ChatGPT.
Yeah,
do a man headbutting a nuke.
But now you've given up the ghost. People know it's fake because they've watched this show. Nobody watches this show. Who are we kidding?
I know.
All right. Since no one's watching, you want to get the show started?
Yeah, let's do it for ourselves.
Let's go. This is PSVR GAMESCAST Live. We film live every single Monday, Wednesday, and 2 Eyes Friday right here on YouTube. We do it live, 6 p.m. Eastern for your viewing pleasure on YouTube. That's for your viewing pleasure. Don't forget, though, we also care about your oral pleasure. That's why our good friend Rypop puts this thing up on podcast services of your choice. Blah, blah, blah. That's for the ASMR listeners out there. They really like the guttural tones of deep, masculine, pronoun caring about men.
I did like that in your review.
I made a joke about pronouns and so many people got mad. Like, whoa, all right, well then I guess we'll stop making jokes on this channel because can't fucking handle it. Yeah. My name is Brian Powell from this channel right here. I was just telling Myles before the show, I'm gonna try not to be confrontational today. I'm gonna try not to start any fights in the chat because I've been irritable and I've been kind of like angry, and that seeps into the show. And like part of depression is like, self-destruction, tearing yourself down and making sure that you're doomed to fail, which is where all of this comes from. So if I've pissed anybody off, well, apparently it was intentional. All up here.
Well, solidarity, Brian, because I've been depressed this week. So, yeah. Go us. This will be a really depressing show. Is that the sell we're going for today?
I mean, I think that's sort of the story arc of the channel. So like, I don't think this is off topic or off brand for us at all. And it does make me feel really dumb when when I talk about me being depressed, because it's like you got laid off this week. It's like you've got real things to be depressed about.
Nah, I don't do any of this stuff about you. Like the what would it be called? Like the Depression Olympics. Nah, you should be more depressed than me. Like, pain's relative. If you're depressed, and stuff like that. But yeah, much love to everyone. And actually, funny enough, I did get this morning confirmation that I am now a qualified mental health first aider because I did a 2-day course.
Oh.
And it means now I have a qualification of being able to deal with mental health.
A whole 2 days,
so. Huh? It was a 2-day course, yeah.
Sounds transformative, Myles.
Yeah, and there was 2 exam papers. And the questions are like, if someone tells you they're depressed, do you A, tell them to pull themselves together? B, headbutt them? C, make them feel better. I don't know what it was,
I mean,
but there was a lot of those ones where like
is there a
the
D?
wrong answers.
All of the above, obviously. It's like
yeah, I didn't get to D, but yeah, it was
pull it
D
together.
Yeah.
Now let's figure this shit out.
That's it.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, sucks, Myles. I really hope that everything comes together for you, and I hope like I think it's easy to say from the outside looking in that these things are almost always for the best. That like you land somewhere even better than you were before. I'm not a huge believer in like religion or God and that kind of stuff, but I do believe in like the power of the universe and that things happen for a reason. And I really hope that's the case with you.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm Sony very much believes that as well. You always look back and you realise, wow, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be to where I am now, and I'm sure I will find myself in a good place soon. I think for me, there's just been a bit of a lag time because the first 2 weeks of the year, the first week was kind of knowing that stuff was coming. Second week was finding out the news and still sort of doing all the handover notes and that. And I think I was just running on pure adrenaline, because you're dealing with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty positive about it all. But yeah, last night I went to London to see a lot of my ex-colleagues. And as soon as I turned up, I felt like the emotion coming up, because I've said it before, I work remotely for this company. So just like being in the presence of people. And as I've mentioned before, the company I work for, best job I've ever had, best people I've ever worked with. And at the end of the day, if you get to work with great people, that's the real tragedy when you have to say goodbye to something. Yeah, just moving forward with it. And it's the cliche I always use of like, I'm not okay, but I am okay. I'm not okay in the sense of I feel rubbish. That's not a nice thing. But I am okay in the sense that I have a really supportive network. Yourself, Brian, the rest of the Game Cats, and our fellow co-hosts AJ and Wes. And also, I just want to say to everyone out there, a lot of people have DM'd me on Discord, and I did say this last week as well. A lot of people have reached out with incredibly kind words and stuff, and I haven't got back to everyone yet. And a part of me feels terrible, but the other part of me knows that if someone else said that, I'd go, no, they understand. You'll get back to them. But I just want to say I have seen the messages, and everyone's been incredibly wonderful and supportive. So thank you.
Yeah, I think everyone understands. It's like you've got a lot of other stuff to be dealing with right now, and yeah, you've seen the messages, and I think that was the important part of sending the message, not getting a response, but knowing that you saw it. That was the important part.
Yeah. And we get to do this, which is awesome. It's like my favorite time of the week. So yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I got out of bed just for this. I
barely just got out of bed today. Brian was in the voice chat Discord last night by himself, and I joined on my walk home from the station. I was very drunk. I don't get drunk often, but obviously a lot of people were buying me beers and that. And yeah, I remember bits of the conversation. The bits I didn't remember, I was reminded just before the show when I was telling Brian, oh, by the way, I started playing Hades. And he was like, yeah, you told me last night.
Yeah, I love that even the beginning of the story isn't factual. Like, you were sitting in the public voice chat by yourself. And I was like,
I was. And then I left. And then I came.
I wonder what Myles is doing in the public voice chat. You're walking home. Walking home in like freezing cold weather.
Yeah.
After a night out. I was like, wow, okay. It was, I mean, I felt good that I was like there to like, even though we're thousands of miles away, I was able to be there to make sure you get home safe. Not that there was like anything I could really do if you didn't. But
no, it could have been a wild bear or something. But yeah, the technology is amazing. You have a phone. I have like wireless in-ears, AirPods. Like the fact that you can connect with people. I often just sort of remind myself of like where technology was 20 years ago. I was talking to my dad yesterday actually about how I remember the days of LimeWire and Morpheus and having 56k internet, where to download a movie you'd have to like leave the internet running for 2 days, and then you'd discover it was the wrong one because people just mistitled it and stuff like that. So the idea you go from that to being able to have like, video calls and stuff, and even doing things like this right now is just amazing. So, yeah.
Some dude sitting in the back of the movie theater with like an old VHS camera with people walking back and forth and shit like that.
But
yeah, those were the
first
original
time I watched
pirated
Scary
movies.
Movie. Scary Movie 2 was the first of the trilogy I'd seen. I don't know, actually, there might be more than 3, but the second one I watched, and it was a download, and it had a laughter track on it. It was just because it was in the cinema. So, it was amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh man, Myles, I mean, you've done anything gaming related this week? You've been able to get.
It's
in
literally
some
gonna be the
games?
third week in a row where I mention the same games I've been playing. I've been playing more Knock. I've been playing more Among Us. I've been playing a bit of Breaches. That as soon as you step away from Breaches for a day or two, you're back to square one again in terms of being terrible. Just like I just. But I also think it's because you're better off playing with a solid team. But I did jump in today to the new Walkabout mini golf. I don't know if we're going to talk about that now or a bit later.
Let's do it now.
Oh, cool. I wonder how many game cats have jumped into it. My initial thoughts, like if I was to just describe it as a one-liner, is I think it might be my favourite ever course. And as I was playing it, I thought, they're going to let me down on hole 18 because the haunted house one was one I loved, and I just felt at the end it kind of botched it with the ending. And it's not to say it's a bad map, but the whole point is Walkabout Mini Golf is full of just all the maps are amazing, but it's like, so what is it to get to the top? And I do think it has all the qualities, which I'll happily talk about in a bit. But my initial impressions were, my goodness, this is beautiful.
Well, I gotta say, I'm really happy that you're here to talk about this because I jumped in the other day after, I don't know, man, like I don't know if it was Bulletstorm or something else that like I was just like, man, I'm so fucking tired of just like really bad games and bad ports. I needed something like that I just need something to remind me, like, that games can look nice and sharp and play really great and have awesome tracking. And I jumped into Walkabout just for like, literally minutes, and played the first 3 holes just to see what they were like. Are the first 3 holes representative of what's actually going on in the entire course? Because what I saw was it didn't feel like this was going to be really around the world in 80 days. It felt like I am on some kind of like airship docking station, like some kind of like airport type place, like way above the ground with blimps and stuff outside. But it all felt like it was taking place in this terminal. And I was like, I wonder if this gets better. So does it?
It does get better, but it doesn't like take you anywhere. To be fair, the Meow Wolf one, without going into specifics, because I still think that's a special thing you should experience blind. For sure. I think that is excellent in its own way. And that's still one I've not gone back to actually on the hard mode, which I do need to do. No, this one, it all takes place on the Port Eiffel, I think it's called. Effectively an Eiffel Tower. There is a docking station for all these blimps and that. But yeah, it just takes place. So I think that the courses themselves, they do have some interesting. I think they have really interesting designs and that, and it flows with it really, really well. As I'm talking about it now, I'm drawing a blank. I can remember the very first hole and a couple of others. But I just think it's a really pleasant course, and it's interesting because we always talk about this with the Walkabout mini golfs, which is the Nordic one. I've forgotten the name of it.
Nordic.
The was it Niehelm? Is it? I've completely.
Is it Alfheim?
Alfheim. Thank you. Yeah. That is one where the courses themselves are incredibly basic. Although it does have a theme, which is all about the curvature of the edges and stuff like that. So it does have a theme, but it's an absolutely beautiful map. There's other ones that are great where they're awesome environments, but there's really interesting mechanics going on. So Meow Wolf would be, I'd say that's to the extreme. Upside Downtown, whatever that was called. There's lots of the anti-gravity stuff. This one, I think a lot of the holes on it are pretty standard in terms of mechanics, but it's just the blend, and I was constantly just mesmerized by everything on every floor. It was great. I think my feelings towards it may also be down to the fact that I've been feeling incredibly low this week, and I couldn't stop smiling when playing it. But right at the beginning, you come off the elevator, and Something I absolutely love about this map, and I think this is to the strength of Walkabout Mini Golf, because what we know is when it comes to level design, when you want to have a world around you and you're high up, you look in the distance and it'll be like a skybox, and it will be like the buildings will be like flat, just to create the appearance of this town. No, when you're looking off the edge, that is a real town. Like at the end, I didn't do any flying around until I completed the course. Oh. I went down to the ground, and those are real buildings, which means that as you're walking around, you're getting the depth perception of like, it's moving as it was. And some of the courses have these drops in them, which you look down them and it's like, oh, that's literally going off the edge of this building and stuff like that. And I did get vertigo on it. It really captured that well. So the surroundings are incredible. Can I say the difference with the hard mode in terms of, I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious, I think. Like the hard mode is nighttime, as you'd expect, right. And the city around you is lit up and it looks real. But there's an additional thing they throw in there, which I won't say. I'll let you discover it. Okay. And it's just amazing. I haven't played the hard mode. I just quickly dived in and I was just like, that's just the icing on the cake. It's really, really well done.
I do always seem to prefer the hard mode aesthetics because they tend to be at night, and because Mighty Coconut does seem to do a really good job with the lighting effects, and so I think I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. I still don't think I've played Meow Wolf on the hard mode.
Yeah,
Walkabout has taken a massive backseat for me over the last few months. It's just been too many games to try to keep up with. So when I'm in the headset, it's like, well, I better make good use of this time and review something. So
this solidifies Walkabout Mini Golf as a top 3. I don't know if in our last top 25 discussion, if it was a top 5 or a top 3, probably a top 5. I think it made it. But for me, this just makes it a continuous strong contender. Like, this is a must-own title for anyone that has a PSVR2 headset. They just keep delivering such high-quality levels, and every time I'm just excited, and I'm just sort of like a kid at a theme park, just absolutely mesmerized by just, it's all the little things. Like, I'll say this because it's right at the start, so it's not going to be too spoilery, but at the beginning you go through like a metal detector, like a security gate, and then there's like the x-ray screen on some luggage, and on the x-ray screen you can see some like mice or rats that are inside one of the suitcases. Like, everywhere you look there's storytelling, there's a sense of like who was here, what was going on, and it made me really hungry as well, because as you get near the top there's a lot of tables with lots of good food and like cheese boards and croissants and stuff like that. And the music, once again, the music is amazing. Like, it's so chilled, but it really captures the atmosphere. And then around the tower, you've got all these floating balloons. You would have seen it in the teaser on the PSVR Without Parole award show, the elephant on the balloon. There's a lot of other things floating around, which is really, really great. And the devs have hidden skeleton, like dead bodies on each of the levels. The one they've hidden on this one is amazing. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised that it's like one dude who makes all the music for this game, and so it's really cool to see, every single course that comes out, it's this awesome soundtrack, completely different than the one before it, somehow always enjoyable without being disruptive. Like, if you're playing with friends, it's not, you're not worried about being like, I can't fucking hear you, let me turn the music down, right? It's like, right. It's good background stuff. And I mean, I think he's definitely gotten a lot better at it too, because early on in the C-Stacks level, the C-Stacks course, it was so, I mean, it was so relaxed that it was like almost put me to sleep. And so I think I think he's kind of struck a great balance. So it's good stuff.
And I love the humor that they have. Like, you go into one of the blimps and there are toilets, and you look in the toilet and it's literally a hole so you sit on the seat and you look down and it's literally going off the side of the building. So straight away I'm laughing at the idea that people are pooping in that, and then people coming up the building or looking up
just
getting
dropping onto the town below. Is that what's happening? That's awesome. Ruthless Metal in the chat said Alfheim isn't Nordic, it's Elven, which was also my confusion as well.
Oh,
obviously.
sorry, my bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I didn't think of it.
That's what threw Brian off.
Yep. Hey guys, just a heads up. Professor Lilith got to me right before the show and said that although it was really close, the Sunday multiplayer game, the voting was really, really close. There was a 3-way tie until just before the show started, and Among Us took the win. So if you're interested in playing Among Us with some awesome cats, a good community, people you don't have to worry about, more on that later, then certainly come join our Discord, and so you can be involved in the weekly Sunday multiplayer meetups. Professor Lilith puts up a poll every week. You get to vote on what game everyone plays, and then it's Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern every single week. You never have to worry about what day, what time. It's always the same day, always the same time. So come join us on Sunday for a little bit Among Us. I also saw System Critical in the chat. System Critical, who's bringing System Critical 2. That doesn't make any sense. A game doesn't bring their own sequel to a platform, but the developers bring System Critical 2 over to PlayStation VR2. He said it just went into QA with Sony, so that should be good to go in about 4 or 5 months, based on how Sony QA goes these days. But with any luck, hopefully what later this month, February, something like that. What's the plan? System Critical, let us know in the chat. Myles, we got a few tips here I think we should address. Starting with the Game Cat Andrew Ehrenreich with the level 2 membership said, never played RE7. Should I hold out hope that it'll come to PSVR2 or just play it flat? Oh my God, don't do that. P.S. Myles, I love the t-shirt stream. P.P.S. P.P.S. Vertigo 2 is awesome. Can we dissect this one piece at a time? Can we start with the back and make our way forward?
Sure.
Did you play any Vertigo 2?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
But you played for your stream, and then that was it. Is that?
That's it. I haven't gone back to it yet. Yeah. I had a lot of issues with it. There's a lot of patches that have dropped since, so yes. I'm looking forward to jumping back into it. So hopefully I will be this weekend.
Same. Yeah. It sounds like they're making some great strides already. I look at the patch notes. I haven't actually jumped back in because, again, I don't really have time right now. But I am paying attention to the patch notes, and they seem like they've already addressed some of the bugs, like the game-breaking bugs I experienced during my playthrough. So that's good. Excellent. It seems like they're slowly taking care of the frame rate problems too. So this wasn't, from what Wes said, this wasn't optimized very well on PC VR when it first came out. So we'll give it some time, and hopefully we'll end up with a great version on PSVR 2 as well.
Awesome.
Second said, I loved the t-shirt stream. Myles, what in God's name is he talking about?
It's innocent. It's an innocent thing. On Wednesdays, I do Miles Die Live every Wednesday talk show. Okay. And for this one, I did saying, what's in the bag? I have a blue bin bag, as we call it over here, bin bag, full of just T-shirts that I've always wanted to get rid of. I normally take used clothes to a charity shop, but these are ones where they have sentimental value. It might be a T-shirt that was gifted to me that is of a location, someone's been on vacation, or an event I've gone to. And I was always like, what can I do with these? Because I'm hoarding them, so many T-shirts. And my mum suggested that she could cut them all out and make a quilt, which was amazing. And so this was suggested like 4 years ago. And I said, oh, wait, before you make it into a quilt, I want to do a video where I hold up all the shirts and talk about them just so I can kind of capture them. And I just kept procrastinating and never doing it. And so I thought, let's do it on a live show. And so I literally just went through this bag of T-shirts talking about them. And some of them, one of them is an original YouTube T-shirt, official one from 2006. So wow. There was some pretty old memorabilia. Some of them that I'm starting to hoard again. I was like, actually, I'm not going to turn that into a quilt. And then everyone in the chat rightly goes, no, you're hoarding. You're doing the one thing you were trying not to do, which was really good. But yeah, it's interesting when it comes to like memories and stuff. Like, do you own any T-shirts from like, I don't know, maybe a band you've gone to see that you wouldn't want to wear? Because I always wear them until they literally wear out. But I don't know if there are ones that you have kept as a souvenir only. Yeah. No, I mean, like I've got a Game Scoop T-shirt that I actually got the whole crew to sign from IGN. Okay. That's cool. When I went to Beyond 300 Live, I got God, dude, I know I have just like. And obviously, I think you and I both have some T-shirts from developers that like I don't think I would wear.
right?
I know.
I'm not. I don't want to walk around with an "I expect you to die 2" T-shirt on. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just not really my style because it's not all black with no print on it. So like,
Right.
So what were you expecting? And so, but also like, I can't imagine that there's tons of these shirts out there. I can't imagine that they did a print run of like thousands and thousands of shirts. And, so like, it's probably like, YouTubers and, and probably some people that work at Shell Games. It's like, so what do you do with that? Like, I don't want to just give it away because it's like, it was, a special thing that I got for doing the job that I do. I've got all these press packs, don't know what to do with any of them. And because Myles, here's the thing I've been saying a lot lately, because I think I'm just trying to be more realistic about my life. In 5 years from now, I really do think I'm going to look back and go, dude, remember when we used to be YouTubers, right? And like I want to like savor the memories and have those things from like back in my YouTube days. Who the fuck knows where life's going to take us? Who knows where we're going to be in 5 years or 10 years? Like, anything could happen, dude. I saw a company hiring. A video game company hiring to basically do what I do on Without Parole, but less.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Way less. Like, it's not a 7 day.
Four more.
Right. And dude, and the pay was like close to $200,000 a year, and I was like, dude, I've never even. I don't think I've accumulated that much money in my entire life combined, never mind so I do think at some point, like, I'm just going to get burnt out and take a job somewhere and just be like, I just need, how great would it be to have money? How great would it be to have money and also not work 24/7? Like, it would be great. So who knows, man? Maybe the YouTube thing's not going to last forever, and I'd like these memories. I don't want to just toss them. I think it would be like nice to be like, oh, this is my little corner of YouTube stuff.
That's nice. That's nice. And actually, another one of the shirts I found was amazing. I picked it out and I went, that's the shirt I wore in my first ever YouTube vlog. And I looked it up on the stream, and it was the shirt that I wore there. And it was actually a band shirt of a local band that doesn't exist anymore. I even remember the name. It was Mia Hope. It was named after the singer's daughter. Like, all these memories start flooding back. And so that's another one I want to hoard now. But so that was a shirt that was like 18 years old. It's just amazing that, you have memorabilia, stuff like that. So yeah, and I see a lot of people in the chat talking about their own memories with their own shirts and that. Like,
that's awesome. So I like this chat, man, because it's like there's a whole secondary podcast going on, like, just over here.
Yeah. So no, as people saying, it wasn't an Myles OnlyFans wet T-shirt thing. No, it was just me innocently going through old shirts. But like, big shout out to my mum with the quilt idea, because I think that's amazing. I mean, she's going to do it. I couldn't make a quilt. And then I've got to work out how to preserve it, like hang it on a wall. I want to do it, and then make sure it doesn't just become a home for moths.
Myles, what do you think about this? I can't believe we're still on the first tip.
RE7, yeah.
What do you think about RE7? Should he hold out? Should Andrew hold out hope for a PSVR2 version, or should he just play it flat, or how should he handle this?
Yeah, because the option wasn't to play it on PSVR, was it?
Nope. No, which is understandable. I don't think if I remember correctly, I don't think Andrew ever had a PSVR 1. Maybe you can correct me, Sir Ehrenreich, but I don't think he did. So maybe, and I think it'd be really hard to recommend being like, for sure. Set up a camera and deal with the whole breakout box and have all these wires and whatever, just to play one game that you missed out on, which there's more than one game you missed out on. However, I mean, I would hold out hope, right? Because
I would as well.
It's insanely scary in VR. And if even if it takes a couple more years for us to get it in PSVR 2, it's worth. There we go. Yeah, Andrew said he's never owned a PSVR 1. It's worth waiting and experiencing it for the first time in VR, because it's terrifying. And if you like scary games, like, I don't think I've ever played a game before or since that's been more terrifying than this game has been when playing it in VR. So I would say wait.
Yeah, I think that's what I would suggest as well, because it's also in the context of, like, there are so many other games to play in the meantime. Don't hold off playing great PSVR 2 experiences.
True.
To play, obviously, a great game on the flat, but like, if your first experience of it can be on VR, that would be incredible. Like, the opening half an hour to RE7 is one of my most memorable like VR experiences. It is incredible. There's just some really great narrative choices, or what am I trying to say? Like narrative, like mechanics. There's things that they do that I think are genius in the medium of gaming.
And just some great like things that happen to you and to other and around you that never pull you out of VR, never take away your control. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I do feel like it's sort of the perfect balance of like, too many 2D cutscenes. No, there's not really, especially on in Resident Evil 7. Very few 2D cutscenes. Very seldom does it ever take away control. Lots of great times you have conversations with people that like you can move around during. Massive events happen in VR that are so much more impactful. It's one of my favorite Resident Evil games.
And it's the closest I think I felt to being in a horror movie.
Yes.
And even more so than RE Village, which again, it's scary, but it felt more like a game. Yeah. RE7 is just, I mean, you don't need to hear me saying it is brilliant.
Yeah. And
give me an excuse to go back to it.
Everyone has said it a million times. But it feels like this is Capcom going back to their roots and saying, hey, we're going to make a modern Resident Evil game that feels so much like Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
They did an amazing job of that. Twitcher, the Deuce Juice Game Cat with the £2 says, public service announcement, Green Hell, still buggy and crashy after patch. So Green Hell's patches sounds like not worth going back for quite yet. Man, Incuvo has their hands full with patching Green Hell, getting that into a better state, and of course Bulletstorm, getting that into a better state. There are things about Bulletstorm that I feel like I don't know how much they need to change to make this happen. But again, watching footage of the flat screen version from 13 years ago, I was like, wow, this game looks intense. Like this looks like a great first person shooter.
That short clip you used in your review to show that, it like instantly captured it. I was like, yeah, wow, that feels very different.
Yeah, and that was like early on, but you saw the player like kind of vaulting over this little like tree that had been like laid down, and so like why in the game do I not grab that tree and kind of throw myself over the tree? Like why I'm just it's just not there now. The weapons, they don't feel like boom, 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 boom. Like they don't feel impactful when you're using them. Like this, the word that everyone has said when I talked to him about the original Bulletstorm was that visceral, and you don't get that visceral feeling. And so if they can somehow like really kill it with the haptics and really like utilize the headset haptics more, and there are ways I think to make Bulletstorm really really fun in VR. But I feel like this was more of a quick and dirty port than anything. And I mean, I didn't care about the story, but I don't care about the story in most VR games. So that was nothing new. It's all about the gameplay, and there's something there. There's something there. It just needs more work. It just doesn't feel polished.
And we've and Bulletstorm VR have put out a statement in the last few hours. Have you seen this?
Yeah, that they're still working on it, and that they're listening to everyone's feedback and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Nihilist Ryan, the game feline, with $5 tip says, testing super chat because folks are saying it doesn't work. I think more people should test the super chat and see if it works.
Yeah, it works for you. Don't know if it'll work for anyone else.
Right. Thank you, Nihilist Ryan. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the support from everybody, guys. Especially on a day like this. This is, I feel completely exhausted from. I think I got 4 reviews out in a week. Like I am
amazing work, man. Phenomenal.
Like I'm good for like 1 a week, usually 2 most, and like 4 in a week was just a lot. And so after I finished the Bulletstorm review yesterday, man, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go lay down, and I slept on and off for about 24 hours. So
I need to. I haven't done any Let's Plays this year other than Vertigo 2. So I will. I do have the time to sort of wait. So but the point is, once I get back on it again, and the reality is, when I did Vertigo 2, I was not in a good place. Like it was the day I was let go, so I was just low energy, and because that's overhanging. But once I get back into it, I've got just a handful of games to do. It'd be easy to catch up. And then also it'll give me space to do DLC live streams, so like do the new walkabout mini golf course and stuff like that. So that'll be nice to look at as well.
I love the dichotomy between what you said and what it sounded like you said. You're like, I haven't done any live streams this year yet, and it's like, wow, really? I was like, oh wait, this year's only been 19 days. So.
19 long days.
Is it 2025 yet? Jesus Christ, this has to get better.
Feels it. Yeah.
Thundercat, GameCat, don't tell my dogs with the £5 says, what's your best gaming memory? I miss the noise and smell of the 90s arcade kicking ass on Street Fighter. Good times. Yo, listen, that's not my favorite memory, but I do want to talk about your favorite memory for a second, Thundercat. It's a great memory, right? There's a sound of the 90s arcade, right? Where there's like the tinny, like digitized voices, like, you know, like Mortal Kombat, like when you finish him, right? But like it doesn't sound like that. There's like a tinnier thing, but it's blaring out of the speakers of the arcade, right? And that's just one of the things you hear amongst the 50 arcade games that were in there, right? And then of course, you know, people talking and the whole thing, and I remember people smoking in arcades for as long back as I can remember. And so like, it just like when I was a kid, it was where like I was too young to hang out there. And so when I could sneak away and actually go hang out there, it felt like I was doing something rebellious. Right. And then when I grew up and I was old enough to actually hang out there, I'd already had a PlayStation at home. And so this is when like arcades started dying out because you had those experiences at home already. But it's a great memory. It's a great memory.
That's a really good memory.
It's not really replicated anywhere right now. Like there's no place I could go right now and really get that same feel, that same vibe.
Yeah, Street Fighter on the arcade machines. We had a youth centre when I was growing up, and they had an arcade machine for Street Fighter. I'm really curious to know how much it cost to play a game back then in the 90s. But yeah, it was just like the most amazing thing. Because like arcade machines were where you got the best gaming experiences. These were machines built for games that were massive, so they could have all the best graphics and, you know, music and that. And I'm glad that we do have a lot of gaming bars with the classic games in the UK. I say many. Most major towns have them, and so you get to play on a lot of these classic ones, and that sort of brings you back. I mean, it's hard for me to sort of pick a memory on the spot, but I definitely remember like my first games console, which I've actually found the Sega Master System, and you know. It's the classic thing with N64s. You had to blow in the cartridge to make them work. But it had Alex Kidd was like in the console. If you started the console without the cartridge in, that would be the one that was in there. And I had a little booklet because the bosses were these enemies with like the rock, paper, scissors heads.
I remember this.
Yeah. And you actually wrote down like, because every time you played it, they always did the same moves. Alex Kidd, incredibly difficult, and then obviously it got ported for PS4, PS5 generation consoles, and in the game you can actually revert back to the classic art design and music, so between the two, which was amazing. But then I got further than I did back in the day. But
what was that? Was that original one?
It was like when Crash Bandicoot was remade. You think, oh, I'm older now, I'm probably going to be better at these games, and then you're like, oh no, these games were just effing hard.
What was the original Alex Kidd called? Was that Miracle World or?
Yeah, Miracle World.
There was like 4 or 5 of them on Master System alone. Shinobi World was my favorite one. That one was just like
Shinobi World, yeah. And there was a Spider-Man game. Actually, we're talking about memories. It's all flashing back now. Obviously, this can't be the whole show. My cousin, I think my cousin's like 10 years older than me. I went round his house and he had the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis as it was called in the States. Sure. And I think he had Golden Axe posters, but Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Echo the Dolphin, and like having a Master System and playing on that, it was just like blowing my mind. Like, and he had this Spider-Man game, and the first boss you fight, I can't remember who it was, but you took a photo. You had a camera in the game, and you actually take a photo as Peter Parker, you know, and it would actually take a screenshot, and it like blew my mind. I think every time you did it, it always showed you the same photo that you were taking. But back then, it was like, wow, you can take photos in games. It's like when you compare it to like what you can do now in games, it's just like, again, it's amazing what blew your mind back then. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah. I I just have so many memories of being like sitting in complete darkness, playing like PlayStation 1 or Genesis, and in my bedroom as a kid, and just being like, I hope my parents don't come in and tell me to go to sleep, like, because I will fucking play this shit all night long. Like when I discovered RPGs with Final Fantasy VII, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna take me forever. I need to utilize this time when everyone else is sleeping. Who else we got? We've got Looper, the Underground Game Cat, with the €2 says they were expecting you to dye the t-shirt black in relation to the I expect you to die, folks. Man, I should really dig out all those. I should definitely. Right now, all the press packs are in the cardboard boxes. I should take them out and like maybe display them on a bookshelf, like, otherwise they're just gonna sit in those boxes for the next 10 years. Like so much of my stuff has. I recently hooked up my. I'm still waiting for my Polymega to show up, and so I hooked up my old Retro Freak so I could like play some of my old Genesis and Super Nintendo cartridges in HD. Upscaled for my 50-inch plasma. It's just such a great feeling, man. Such a great feeling to play some of those games and just like, I don't know, it's good stuff. I feel like there was a certain point where games just never got better. And
right,
yeah, and I think PS2 is where games kind of capped off. PS2, early PS3, it's like I don't think they ever got better from that. They were just everything's just kind of more in different variations on a theme with maybe like prettier graphics. Darth Vader, the Game Cat, with the $20 tip. Thank you, my friends. Says, I've been pretty upset with the state of VR. Vertigo 2 launched poorly. Bulletstorm, poor launch. Both were exciting titles I wanted to play. I'm really frustrated with these studios who hired the cheapest porting studios. Yeah, well, I mean, with Bulletstorm and Green Hell, that is Incuvo. Like they're not farming that out to anyone. They are taking a flat screen game, this is what we want, right? We want these developers to be taking PS3 and PS4 games, PS5 games, and making these VR versions of them. It's disappointing, but I mean, man, Incuvo should know better, I guess is the right thing to say, because like it's not like this isn't their first rodeo. They did Layers of Fear, which wasn't great on PSVR1, but then they did Blair Witch, which was great on PSVR1. It's like maybe they just don't have the time they need or the money they need, but this shit's not intentional, right? Like no studio wants to make a bad game. So no. I mean, what do you think's happening, Myles?
I don't know, but the fact it was delayed the way it was made me have a sense of like it was a deadline they were never going to hit, and I feel like this is a deadline that it was a compromise. Maybe they probably wanted longer, but it's the whole publisher developer relationship, isn't it?
Yeah. Although I do think that Incuvo is the publisher and developer in this case, and so it's like they.
Yeah.
Right. Which
in that case, then there's the other pressures that you mentioned as well. Time and money. You have to move on to other stuff. They need to get cash flow. Yeah. I'm sure people in the chat will say, well, Incuvo's publishing division and development division are almost like two separate companies, which is certainly I'm assuming the case. But still, it's like good game. What's the statement? A delayed game is eventually good. Bad game is whatever. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Although apparently that's not the case. No Man's Sky is proof of it. So, Myles, do you think? So, like one of the things we want to talk about today is, do you think that PSVR2 has a problem? I think it's really easy for people to go down the rabbit hole very quickly, or get kind of like lost in the weeds the second. The second a game comes out that isn't received well, right? Like, so we had kind of a not so great port of Vertigo 2. We got Bulletstorm VR, and everyone's like, "Oh man, PSVR 2 is in trouble." Where it's like we just had Resident Evil 4 and Ancient Dungeon, and like a series of good games come out. Do you think PSVR 2 has a problem right now, or do you think we're sort of just like in the weeds because of a few bad launches? The way I would take this on is it's all about the scope. And what I mean by that is if we are constantly looking at this on a month by month basis. You look at January and you think, this isn't great. There's not been a lot of games. There's been a lot of problems with the launches we've been looking forward to. You look at December and you think, wow, we got absolutely spoilt with games. Yeah. But then you can look at the year so far in terms of 10, 11 months that we've had, and you get more of an average sense. It's like the difference between weather and climate. In my mental health training, it's the difference between a mental health episode and a condition. Something is like in the moment, something is more long term. And I do think for this question of does PSVR2 have a problem, I do think it's about looking at the overall picture, because otherwise you can take any window and go, well, that's indicative of what PSVR2 is as a whole.
Right.
It's not to say, and so what I would say is, there is a problem, or there are problems, and there are really great things about it. And obviously, we'll dive into this more now. But on the specific issue about like these games that have been launched and haven't been great, I think that there is a problem with PSVR2, which is due to the smaller pool of audience, the pressures of time and cash flow. It is so high, and so unfortunately a lot of developers have to put it out there knowing that they're then going to be able to fix stuff once they've got cash coming in. I think we keep forgetting that a lot of these PSVR2 titles, there's a lot of that lack crossplay, for example, and that the development cost of making it for PSVR2, taking advantage of all the features that it comes with, that comes at a cost. So yeah, I do think that is a problem. But then I think a benefit on the flip side is there have been so many amazing VR experiences this year. Yes, there have been disappointing ones, but there have been a lot of excellent ones as well, and a lot of great stories. Walkabout Mini Golf, I assume this latest map is on PSVR2 only. It's not on. It'd be on Quest 3, but is it not on Quest 2?
They only drop support for Quest 1, I believe.
Sorry, that's what. Okay. So yeah, there are a lot of good stories as well. So my general thought taken on this question is, yes, we can look at it on a month by month basis. Yeah, the year doesn't feel like it's off to a good start, but we've had really good months and we've had lulls as well. And so when you look at the averages, I'm not worried.
There was an interesting comment that came in on, I believe, the Bulletstorm review from Grey Dog. Said, I don't understand what's going on with VR, particularly on the PSVR2. The PSVR1 catalog was remarkable, but for the PSVR2, many of the most ubiquitous cross-platform VR games aren't available. The amazing first-party PSVR1 games remain missing, and we don't even have things like YouTube or Netflix or virtually any VR lifestyle applications. I was blown away by the PSVR1 support by PlayStation, and the PSVR2 support seems to be counterproductive from the PSVR1 experience. What the heck has gone wrong in the PSVR2? I think it's a good question, and I think I responded to Grey Dog by saying, I think it's easy to look back at the PSVR1 as an entire catalog. You say this is the culmination of 6 years of different developers working to get a lot of good games out, and it's easy in retrospect, looking back on it, to ignore all the shitty games that came out. Right, there were so many bad games in the PSVR1 generation as well, so many bad ports. But those aren't the games you think about when you look back at something. When I look back at the PlayStation 1 or the PlayStation 2, I don't think about the bad ports we got or the bad games we got. I think about the amazing games we got, right? It's like that because it's nostalgia fueled, and that's what nostalgia does. It kind of it sort of eliminates the negatives from your brain, and you just look back at everything with rose tinted glasses. You kind of forget what it was like to be in the moment, day to day, for those 6 years. The first year of PlayStation VR1 was rough, really rough. We'd go months without a game. And so, and it only took us 3 months to get a AAA game. We got Resident Evil 7 pretty much right off the bat. And then that really set us up for some severe disappointment, being where's more of this? And there wasn't. And so it's hard to kind of put yourself back in the shoes of somebody who is actually playing PSVR1. But then you look back at it and go, well, look at all this support from Sony. But where was the support from Sony on day one or year one, right? It took us years to get Astrobot Rescue Mission. It took us years to get Blood and Truth. It took us years to get Everybody's Golf and Wipeout Omega Collection. So the fact that in year one, We already have Resident Evil Village in 4 and a full-fledged Horizon VR game, not a full-fledged Horizon game, and in Gran Turismo. Like, that's year one. It's pretty damn good. So I think when we look back at PSVR2 in 10 years from now, it's going to be a much different experience.
Yeah. I also just think that, and look, this is a criticism I would put on myself as a part of the gaming community. I think that we are so incredibly privileged. Actually, in the lead up to PSVR2, it was the thing I kept saying, that is, gaming is a luxury good. Like, it's not cheap, and it's a luxury to be able to do gaming like VR at the quality it is. Actually, just in the last week, I went to sort out confirming, because I'm getting my kitchen redone in February, which obviously is the worst thing to do just before you getting laid off. But they allow you, I assume at a lot of these places, to walk around your design kitchen in VR. And I wasn't like that bothered about doing it, but as we were signing up, my dad was like, "Go on, Myles, give it a go." And so I went into their little studio, and it was a HTC Vive, which was the first domestic headset I ever went on. And so I put the headset on, and there I was in this new design kitchen, and it was the first time I'd been on the Vive since I first went on it when my brother bought one. And it was my first domestic experience of VR, and I had such an amazing memory. But going back on it, I was like, my goodness, PSVR2 is so good. And by the way, that the Vive is an old headset now, right, but it was very pioneering VR at the time. But it's like, I just think you get accustomed to the present so quickly, and just doing that for a moment just made me appreciate how phenomenal the PSVR2 headset is. But again, the problems that people are mentioning, like all these apps and that, which again, we're going to go into more detail, I'm sure, in this conversation, all of this is justified. I'm just saying, in the grand scheme of things, like, you give me any genre of game, I'm sure we could list 1 to 3 really excellent ones in that space, whether it's sports, whether it's, you could go into really specific genres, and then maybe it might be a bit more difficult. But I honestly feel that for the first year of PSVR2, there really is a VR experience for everyone. And that's never been felt more than at Christmas time, when I had family members. My auntie, bless her, hates heights, but she went on the roller coaster one, and I was very proud of her. But then she then started playing Five Nights at Freddy's 2. She knew nothing about it, and she kept saying, "Oh, I want another go. This was amazing." Like, jump scare after jump scare, and I was like really proud of her. And yeah, just we've had 2 Five Nights at Freddy's game like in a year. Yes, I don't think it matters if one of them's like a remake. And 2 Resident Evil VR games in a year, in less than a year, in 10 months. That is ridiculous. Yep. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I again, does PSVR2 have problems? Yes, it does. I'm not here making the case it doesn't. I'm just saying, like, in the grand scheme of things, and again, I'm happy to sort of explore these problems, because I definitely have a lot of problems that I have feedback on.
Yeah, the most topical problem I think that it has right now are these ports. Not that it has ports, because like we want games from PC and we want games from Quest on PSVR too, but there seems to be a quality control problem. Now, from all reports, it sounds like Bulletstorm wasn't very good on Quest either, and so this seems just like a more of a universal problem than a specific port. But I mean, Hellsweeper came out, and it was we had major visual problems, a couple control problems. Vertigo 2, Bulletstorm, Green Hell. I mean, it feels like developers are still finding their way around PSVR 2, which initially sounded like it was going to be a piece of cake to get, PC VR quality graphics running at a great stable frame rate on PSVR 2. It sounded like it was going to be easier to get these great versions of these great games. And certain studios have proven that it's totally possible, right? Vertical Robot absolutely proved that with Red Matter 2 and 1. White Moon Dreams, who handled the ports for Saints and Sinners Chapter 1 and 2. Just an amazing studio who really knows what they're doing, right? But that talent isn't everywhere. The people who have the technical know-how is not everywhere. They'll learn, right? This is a learning process for some of these developers, and it sucks that we have to kind of pay for them, while they're learning. We have to pay the price. But these problems will be circumvented with either the switch to Unreal Engine, people figuring out Unity and VR a little bit more, and you can't just let this shit slide forever. Any developer worth their salt's can be like, okay, well, what happened this time, so that we can fix it next time. So like, the title of the video that we're currently podcasting is "What's Next for PSVR2," and I do think the apps that are missing are coming. I do think that developers are going to kind of find their way around the hardware, and then and so slowly but surely we will make our way into a much more comfortable place where when every game comes out, no one is sitting there going, "Oh, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be terrible. This is going to be terrible. I told you it was going to be terrible. It was terrible." Like, I think we're going to get past that soon enough. But like, we're almost a year in, so I think. I don't know. Hopefully by this time next year, we won't be saying the same things.
It's also worth knowing that no headset is perfect, and no headset is going to be have problems absent. So, like, I think I read a report in the last 24 hours because the Apple Vision Pro, leading spatial computing, as they call it. Mm-hmm. I think I read a report that Netflix has declared that they will not be supporting Apple Vision Pro. So a big part of it is you're going to be able to have a TV in your room. And again, I need to, I should probably have double checked before mentioning it. But regardless of if that is true or not, I'm pretty sure it was from the report I read that there are going to be problems in terms of like what apps are willing to incorporate with this technology. Netflix, you could watch. You can watch Netflix on your PSVR2 headset, right?
Can you watch? I've never actually started the Netflix app on PSVR2.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you can, right? But it's just like you're watching it in cinema mode because you can play any game on PSVR2 in cinema mode.
Yeah. One of my first thoughts when I was playing Resident Evil 4 on PSVR2 was, oh my goodness, I forgot how good flat screen cinematics can look in the headset. It was just like, it was so crisp. So someone says Disney won't either. So look, there's a lot of problems there, but yeah, that is an app you want. And Sony has been working on this partnership with their other arms, Sony Pictures, having that tied into PlayStation Plus. It seems like the inevitability that it will be factored in, and they're not going to put all the features at the launch. Same with PS5. There's been loads of really good features that have come out on PS5 years after launch. I know people were annoyed that PS5 didn't allow you to have themes. Do you remember that, Brian? Everyone liked their custom themes on the PS4.
Yep.
And it's like, where is it? And that's a big outrage in some areas of the PS5 community. That's kind of like the issue with games on PSVR2. We're forgetting that we don't really know what else is coming out beyond January and February for the flat screen games on PS5. So right. Sony needs to declare their hands. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the gaming industry. And we just have to remember that PSVR2 is a much smaller pool of an audience. There's a lot more pressures. And actually, an interview I watched this week, I don't know if you've spoken about any other shows and that. Say again?
This week,
yeah. PSVR Frank was interviewed by Petrifying Pumpkins about some of his experiences with First Contact Entertainment. And it was really interesting. There were some really interesting insights there. And one of them, one of the many key things he mentioned about was how when they were developing for Firewall Ultra, and this will sound like a no-brainer, but I'm just sort of using a reference point to explain it, which was when they were developing for Firewall Ultra, they didn't they were given the headsets, the test kits, but like hardly anyone has the test kits. Like developers are working individually, in their sectors developing it. There's less collaboration and learning off each other because they don't know what other projects are being worked on. They can't do massive multiplayer testing. Obviously a beta would have been good. I think Frank even said that himself, that he wanted there to be a pre-launch beta testing. But it's a great example of First Contact Entertainment leading developers for PSVR.
Yeah.
And some of the struggles that come with development is the fact that in those early stages, you might say, oh, you get an advantage getting the headsets before launch. I mean, you do in the sense that you get to make a launch title or something that's going to be in that launch period. but people start getting their hands on the mechanics of the console or a headset years down the line. I always bring this up. The Last of Us Part 2, one of the most incredible looking PS4 games that came out, 6-7 years? It was right at the end of the life cycle. And that is Naughty Dog, which is top tier, has all the investment in the world. And we keep, a lot of these developers are dealing with much smaller budgets on arguably a platform and a gaming field which is so labor intensive, because you're not just making it on a flat screen, you're having to get in the headset and test it. And again, this is a criticism I throw at myself. I think we very quickly come accustomed and kind of, I think we take for granted the real stakes that are put at for devs to create VR games. And so I think just things are going to take a lot longer than we want. Yeah. I don't really know what was the core of my argument there, but there was something there.
It's all good, man. I think everything you said made a lot of sense. I think that, in lieu of Sony talking very much right now, going back to the beginning of what you were saying, they're not talking right now about flat screen PlayStation 5 games. They're not talking about, what's next for PSVR2. They're just quiet. Like way too quiet. Their communication has been terrible, right? This is not the Sony of the PS3 and PS4 era, who was like for the gamers and like constantly like, trying to make amends to, fix their mistakes of the past. These are people who are fucking like almost arrogantly quiet, being like, you're going to buy the fucking thing one way or another, so why should we make any effort? That's how it comes across, even if that's not what's happening internally. And I think Sony needs to recognize that, which means we need some state of plays, we need some, we need a showcase, and it'll be, hopefully when they actually have shit to reveal, when it's time for them to start showing shit off, it'll be worth the wait. But in the meantime, we have developers like Aces of Thunder, or Gaijin Entertainment, who are making Aces of Thunder, right? Who just said they're like wrapping up development on that game. So like that's coming way sooner than we thought it was. Thank God we needed a good flight game, especially after Project Wingman. Lo-Fi, which was supposed to be out last year. I can't imagine it's getting delayed too much longer, but we'll see what happens. Ultra Wings 2.
Project Wingman, by the way, they're still using in their promos.
So
like even like more recent VR promos, they'll have like the 4 experiences and they'll have Project Wingman, which I just find really odd.
Well, let's hope they stop using that, and let's hope they stop using Firewall Ultra, because it's like now the game is like, that's it, man. Like whatever Firewall Ultra is right now, like that's pretty much it. This is on Sony at this point to update it, and I don't think Sony cares about updating it. I think they're like, let's cut our losses and move along. Ultra Wings 2 is coming out this month. Genotype is that next month? I forgot. Into the Darkness is a 2024 game. Behemoth is a 2024 game. Madison VR, Happy Fun Land. Dude, Arcanage, which I'm insanely excited about. I think that's going to be something we've really been looking forward to. I've been talking to those developers and being like, any way you can push that thing to 90 native? And they're like, oh, we'll see what we can do. It's like, well, all right, well then fucking fingers crossed. Really hoping we get an amazing, amazing version of that game, because it's not even coming to Quest. This is as far as I know, this is a PC VR and PlayStation VR2 game. So I don't think it's going to be one of those games that's sort of hampered by what's going on in the standalone space. So this is, I just listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games that are coming out this year. There's obviously way more than that. These are the ones I think are coming out more sooner rather than later, although Behemoth is late 2024. My guess with that would be with Into the Darkness as well. Great. I mean, it sounds like great games. And this is without Sony saying a word. So I do think that 2024 is looking really good for games already, and we're only 19 days into the year. Is this a me thing, or are you feeling pretty positive about the upcoming games as well, Myles?
I mean, I'm feeling positive and optimistic about PSVR2 for this year. But if you ask me to put my finger on like what am I feeling optimistic about, I probably couldn't put my finger on anything. And that's not to say like Behemoth and a Behemoth. I always like double question myself based on like, I know I normally say it in the weird British way, but and like Madison VR, I could definitely put my finger on them. But again, talking about like the overall feeling, I think I'm just still buzzing. There's so many games I still want to get to from last year. And so, and obviously, as I've said, the last 3 weeks, I've been playing the same sort of 3 games that are scratching all the different itches among us for something a bit more of a social co-op, multiplayer. Breaches has been my first-person shooter attempt, and then Knock has been my fitness everyday app. So that's been good. So yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good as a whole. For me, it's just like, and we were saying this in the lead up to PSVR2, there's a chicken or egg when it comes to VR. More people are going to make VR games and invest more once the pie is big enough. I think one of the biggest mistakes and problems for PSVR2, whilst also understanding why they've done this, is it not being compatible with PC. They should have done it through their I always ask this on the show every time. I don't know what Sony's arrangements are when it comes to like their PC ports of their first party games. I think they're done through Steam, aren't they? And like the Epic store.
Yep.
For me, it's like Sony needs to have their own app for PC, for example.
Yep.
And then they need to have PSVR2 games on there, even if they don't release them all on there. But you can plug in your headset into a PC, because one of the biggest issues is there are people that have a PC, don't have a PS5, and would get a PSVR2 if they could plug it in. And I understand. Yep. But this is how I feel about it, and I have no marketing research to make this. This is completely uneducated. PSVR2 is not selling. Hopefully, I'm getting this the right way around. I don't think PSVR2 is going to sell PS5s to a huge extent, but PS5s is naturally going to sell PSVR2s, because obviously once you got one, you're like, oh, I'm going to make the next leap. And what I mean by that is the worry that if we make PSVR2 available on PC, it's now going to like reduce the amount of PS5s sold. I think there is an argument to that, and there will be some kind of loss. But if you want PSVR2 to succeed, I think you're going to benefit a lot more by having that PC availability. But then also, I don't know what the mechanics are with making that work, and if there are other problems that come about with people being able to then hack it. But I think some people have got it working on PC already. Like, there are ways of getting around it. I think PlayStation just need to embrace it. So for me, that's a big thing. And then the other part of it is how else they fill up the funnel at the top. How do they get more people adopting PSVR2s? And they need to like just be much smarter with their marketing. Always get comments on social media. I've seen it for PSVR without parole. Brian, Sony should hire you. I've had it recently of like, why aren't they using this to like promote their latest games? It's clearly not a major priority at the moment, and I think it's in part because Sony is going through some major restructuring internally. Jim Ryan stepped down. There's been all this backlash with the live service strategy they were going to take. The Last of Us 2 remaster that's just come out has an amazing roguelite mode, which many are suspecting is using a lot of the mechanics that perhaps existed in this Factions 2 game. Because God of War just had a roguelite mode put into the sequel game as well. So there's a lot of strange things happening behind the scenes, and obviously it's very easy to look in one ecosystem of PSVR2 and then PS5, but Sony or PlayStation is an overall operation. And despite the fact that PSVR2 doesn't feel like a priority, it's the most I've seen them do marketing for the headset, I think, ever. Like they've been doing a lot of might not be the marketing we like to see, but they've been doing a lot. I've never seen so many influencers be given a VR headset at launch. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, again, another ramble from me. But
well, I think it's interesting, Myles, that I don't know if you saw this in the chat. Steve W. said, Team Asobi, the Astrobot folks, have a message on their website that they're working on their most ambitious project yet. Good things are coming. And see, this is what I'm talking about. Like this is, I think most developers would probably say, hey, we're currently working on the most ambitious project we've ever made. Like this, the next one is always the biggest one. And so here's a studio saying something that should be very taken for granted. Like, you don't need to say this, But the fact that we're given the smallest little fucking morsel of a developer saying, hey, we're doing the exact thing that you think we should be doing. We're doing the exact same thing as every other fucking studio out there. This is how bad the Sony communication is that we're given this tiny little thing and everybody goes, oh, thank goodness, Team Asobi's working on something big. Well, of course they are, right? It's like, everybody's working on something big for the most part, you know? And so Sony just needs to be like, to amplify those voices a little bit. So we can all go, oh yeah, we're fucking excited. Team Asobi's working on something big. Right? That's we don't need that much, right? And I'm curious to see how much we actually need. I'm curious to see how much we need for these supposed game journalists to stop talking shit about PSVR2 when they're clearly, out there just to hype up Quest. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about, but yet you're out there talking as if you're an authority on the topic. Right? Oh, my Quest 3 just made my PSVR2 feel like a NES. It's like, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry, Paris. That was the dumbest fucking tweet I've ever seen in my life. Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Have you played your PSVR2? Because it doesn't sound like you have.
And just to add to that point, a lot of the content creators I love watching in the PlayStation space, and by the way, just to let you know, I was a huge fan of them before they made these points, which was when I think of like Josh Brown from What Culture Gaming, or Ryan Mystic from the Mystic PlayStation channel. I love his Friday show, Let's Talk PlayStation. They both are massive advocates for PSVR 2. And those are people that I trusted already in terms of their opinion on stuff, and they're people that really get it. And look, it's not to say if you don't like PSVR 2, then your opinions are shit. But as you were alluding to, Brian, it's about having opinions that are, I'm going to say, intellectually honest, or grounded in a sense of fairness. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's the same in terms of American culture. It's definitely a big part of UK culture. I think people generally, when they see stuff being discussed in the world, whether it's in politics or anything else, people like fairness. Yeah. People like to see things being talked about fairly. When things are done and they're disingenuous, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And I know I can see when people respond to Ryan McCaffrey and stuff, and it's like, have you not even played these games yet? And it's a real shame. But then I was going to say maybe that's just a failure of the marketing, but I don't think it's a different kettle of fish with VR. It's a new space still. We make this point again and again. The best games are often not tied to popular IP. Popular IP VR experiences are excellent, but beyond that, because I can imagine that's what a lot of people did. They got the PSVR 2 headset, GT7, amazing, Horizon, amazing, Resident Evil Village, amazing. But what else? And they're looking down the list, and Ancient Dungeons. What the hell's that? That just looks. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yep. Very good point, Myles. I feel like I've been ignoring tips for the better part of 45 minutes here. So let's blast through a few of these, Myles. Silver Nexus with the $10 tip says, is this thing working? Thanks for all you do, Brian. Thank you, Silver Nexus. Really appreciate you guys. It looks like the super chats are working. So thank you, everybody, for all the support. Mikey D with the $5 tip says, enjoying RE4 and must get back to Village, but RE7 is the scariest in VR. An absolutely disgusting world. I need a shovel. Nope, a shower. I can't read, Myles. Every time I play it. I'll tell you what I think of when people say like the world in Resident Evil 7 is disgusting. Back in the Midnight Gamescast days, early days of the channel, one of Jeremy's favorite things to do on camera was to reach over here behind him and grab my RE7 candle and off of the bookshelf and threaten to open it up, because without even lighting it, it smelled putrid. All you have to do is open it and like the room smells for like a day. And so that's what I think of. There's a smell associated with Resident Evil 7 for me that comes from the Resident Evil 7 candle. And I urge you all to never buy it and smell it because it's putrid. Let's see Paul Allen's card. I don't know who Paul Allen is. I don't know anything about that username. So let's move along with the 5 quid says, just wanted to say me and my partner appreciate all your effort and passion for PSVR over the years. All you guys are great. Thank you. Let's see Paul Allen's card. Macho, the real estate procrastinating game cat with the level 2 membership says, LOL, Incuvo just needs a better business model. Release buggy letdown of a hyped game. Release apology statement, promising patches, patch the wrong thing.
Can I just say about like a hyped game?
Sure.
What made Bulletstorm VR hyped? Like, it's a known IP.
Yep.
It was showcased as it's coming out.
Mm-hmm. It's a flat. I don't know. It's a flat screen game. It's doing the thing that we've been asking developers to do for the last 7 or 8 years, and that's grab these games that are like sort of just dying out there on PS3, PS4, games that are being very quickly forgotten about. And give them new life. It can't cost very much to license these things because no one cares about doing anything with them. And then bring them into VR, make them VR AF. And so I think that's why people cared more than anything else. Not because Bulletstorm was an amazing game. I mean, people have said, yeah, it's they really enjoyed it back in the day, but it's more because it was the thing that we wanted from developers and from VR.
Yeah, that's all true. I guess my point was in terms of when it comes to like what makes them hyped, it wasn't them coming out the door going, this is going to blow your mind, this is the best game ever. It was marketed. I just do worry sometimes, and again, this is a criticism I'd even throw at myself, that we complain that VR is not getting marketed enough, so they shout about it when games are being developed, and then we sort of complain because it doesn't meet the expectations that we have. Now, expectations that it's a game that's good, all of that is completely understandable, and I'm not complaining about that. We should definitely criticize games when they're not great, when they're released and they're unfinished. But I just think the sort of like games being hyped as a part of the criticism, I don't think is fair, because games should be marketed. The second part is they should also be released in a good state, which they're not.
And this has been the Captain Obvious segment of GAMESCAST.
By the way, Bulletstorm I've still not played yet, so I need to jump into that.
Salvatore says, Brian, I had that candle. It melted in my old car on a hot day. Every time it got hot, the smell would come back. I have two other gaming candles too. I have Skyrim and great. I have no idea what it was. It's obviously a VR game. Can't remember what it was though. Somebody in the chat will tell me, I'm sure. Here, what else we got, man? What else we got? We got it's Macho again with the $5 tip. Says, it was a continuation of his membership. He says, then rinse and repeat, slowly filling my wait for patch folder with Incuvo games. Come on, Incuvo. Yeah. See, and I'm really torn when we talk about Incuvo, because I actually think Green Hell VR was a great game. There were problems with it, right? Not expecting every game to be perfect, and that resolution certainly could have been better. But man, like, you push through and you play that game, I thought it was really fun to play. I thought it was better than Saints and Sinners in some regards, with Saints and Sinners being the clearly better game overall. And so like, I'm a little torn on that, you know. I wonder how perfect a game has to be for me not to be distracted when I play it. Because that's the thing with like Vertigo 2. I don't think it has to be perfect. I don't think the frame rate has to be running at like 120 FPS nonstop, like, you know, silky smooth. But how good does it have to be for me not to be distracted by it? And that's a case by case basis, right? I've loved a lot of imperfect games over the years. I've loved a lot of games that, like, you know, have issues, but I still loved. And you know, because you can make up for these things with awesome gameplay mechanics or whatever. But then there's some things like that are just so distracting. You can't not pay attention to them. Like, they pull you out of the experience constantly. And so this is something I've been sort of wrestling with, being like, and I guess it's not something I have to wrestle with, right, Myles? It's by case basis. And if something's bad enough for it to be distracting to me, well, then that's an issue. I don't know.
Yeah, that's too right.
Luke Venable with the $5 tip says, just wanted to say, I hope you don't do away with the awards this year. Also, please don't shorten the show. I just need to advertise it more. He's talking about the awards show.
I love that the feedback still coming from. This is amazing, man. You got the best feedback from this community.
Yeah. Oh, dude, we've talked so much about the award show, and people have left amazing comments. And so basically, if I think what people are basically saying is that we have a great award show, right?
Yes.
And that like if more people, just you need more people to watch it. However, if the goal is to get more people to watch it, I certainly have a formula now. Everybody has said this. Oh, you should do this. You should do this, and this. And so we just have to figure out like what we're really looking for. Like what's the smartest way to do it that won't completely burn me out every December.
Yes.
So we'll figure it out though. But thank you, Luke. We appreciate the feedback. Friends Have Xbox, a username I absolutely love, with the Canadian $7 tip, says that delayed game quote was from a time before games could be regularly updated. Nowadays, it isn't applicable as much. Agreed. That's a good point. When a game came out on PlayStation 1 or 2, you couldn't just patch those things. Like you were fucked. Like the game was just always going to be broken. So things have changed considerably. Doesn't make it any better. It just makes me feel like it's not a complete waste of money when I buy something and it's not great, because fingers crossed it'll get better later. Grandpa's Barbecue or Xbox. Grandpa's Barbecue or Game Cat. This coffee needs to kick in like now. With the Australian $5 tip, says, do we know if Quest has an exclusive deal with YouTube VR and or Netflix? I don't think anything's been said publicly about that. You just want to watch 3D movies and 3D videos on PSVR2?
That was something I loved about Vertigo 2, was the 3D cinematics.
Yeah, you like that?
I did. I was really surprised. Obviously, it's like I'd rather be in there. I don't know. There's something kind of mesmerizing. Like I'm looking at a screen, but it is 3D. Like, yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I was torn on it, right? Because this is something that that happened in Dreams a lot. They would just basically take the scene and then letterbox it, right? Just black out everything except for the widescreen kind of theater mode. And I don't know, there's something about it that feels cheap to me. I don't know what the solution is though. Like I'm not a game developer. I just know that like watching cutscenes kind of bores me, whether they're 2D or 3D.
I see. I think it's what you're like. Yeah, I'm watching an experience when you're in things that could be a cutscene, but you're standing around waiting for stuff to move on. I think there are some games where that's necessary, like if your character's actually present. But like if that was done where you're floating in the area, you can also do camera angles then, so it gives you some advantages with the cinematography. But then again, I've not got to the end of Vertigo 2, so by the end of it, I might be like, yeah, I'm sick of it. But like,
there's not that many.
Yeah,
like that's the good thing about it is like a lot of the communication. You're running with Brian at the beginning, and it's like so a lot of the stories being delivered as you're running through and like watching this battle unfold and shit. And like I think that's where VR excels, is like making you feel like you're really in the midst of something. And so I think that's why I've seen how good it can be done in real time. So he pulls you out and like says, hey, here's a cutscene, 3D, 2D, doesn't matter. I'm like, I can do without this. Which is crazy because I used to love, dude, when I got a PlayStation 1 game back in the day, my favorite thing would be like I just want to watch the intro cutscene. I wanted it to go on all day long. Like Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. Like that whole introduction was so good, and I was like, "This is awesome!" And I got to the game, and I was like, I just want to watch that opening cinematic again, right? I was so impressed by all that back in the day, and so things have really changed. And I think everybody evolves as a gamer, and their tastes change over the years. I was such a point and click adventure guy on PC like 30 years ago. It's like things change. So.
And talking about like cinematics or movies and that, because someone in the chat was just saying the Disney Plus app for PSVR2 would be ace. I remembered now that the PS5 controller, it came with Disney Plus.
Oh, did it?
Netflix. Like there was clearly a deal done. They say to those apps of, do you want to be on the controller? Because I think Netflix wasn't available at launch, or was it Disney Plus? Some of them were brought in like a bit later. And so there are going to be discussions. So like Sony again could be, in discussions of like, we want to have this as a part of our package. We're doing this for Sony Pictures content, so why not do it for Netflix and stuff as well? So yeah, as Brian was alluding to earlier, this is something that's definitely coming. It has to.
Yeah.
It has to.
It has to. It has to. Fluke, the Swedish Game Cat with the 50 Sekiro says, just testing Super Chat. Don't mind me. We will not mind you at all, Fluke. Thank you so much for checking that out and testing it for us. Still Ill with the $50 tip. Thank you for your generosity, sir. It says, I don't catch the show live very often, so I'll say this now. Love what you guys do, and wishing you all the best. And to Myles, keep your head held high, my friend. You're a star. That's something the British say, right?
I think we say it. Not usually with a $50 tip, which is very nice. But no, honestly, appreciate that. Very, very kind of you to say. By the way, that thinking emoji they've used, like, I know it just means thinking. I always find, it's not a criticism of this message, but I never like using it because it always looks like, am I in trouble? Oh. It's like, yeah, I'm not happy about this.
Yeah. Yeah, some of it, I've seen variations on the thinking emoji, and it always makes me think that the person who used it has that gotcha moment, like, ha, Brian.
Yes.
Like, you know,
right, I see what you mean.
The thing you're saying isn't what you mean, and here's why. Ha, like it always seems a little snarky for some reason. And yes, but that's not at all what we thought of your comments. Still Ill. Thank you for your generosity.
Yeah.
Fox Die Infected with the €5 says, I'm thinking about starting a cult where we just worship Ancient Dungeon all day long. Want to join?
Whoa.
I feel like you're infringing on my existing cult, Fox Die Infected. You may join our cult, but I will not be joining yours. Dude, Ancient Dungeon it's crazy because obviously I hang out in voice chat all day long over on Discord, and people in voice chat are playing Ancient Dungeon while I'm sitting there working on like a Toy Trains review or a Bulletstorm review, and it drives me crazy because I'm like, oh, you guys are playing a good game and I'm gonna sit here and play this. And so that's all I can think about when I'm working on a review is like, can't wait for this to be over so I can go play Ancient Dungeon more, which I admittedly have not done because I've been busy. But it's a great game. And if you haven't played it yet, you should. It's on sale right now. I think it's 20% off, which makes it, $16 or something like that? It's already a good deal.
Amazing.
Yeah. Myles, this is also, so we really appreciate everyone who's donated, and the tips are certainly a way to get your viewer takeover style question into the show. But we also have a Discord where you can click the link in the description below and come join us over there. There's a whole channel in our Discord for viewer takeover questions, and knowing full well that there wasn't a whole lot to talk about today, wanted to make sure that we opened it up to everybody. So we've got a few questions from Discord as well, Myles.
Nice. I haven't actually seen these. So
perfect. I haven't either. I copied and pasted all of them, and I'm just gonna read through them, and we'll do kind of a rapid fire thing.
Okay.
Fifth says, what's the next RE game? 2 or 7 or 9? I'm assuming he means which one are we going to see on PSVR2 next? 2, 7, or 9?
It's a really good question. I think it's going to be 9. I think they're going to push that the next game they do will be, and I think Wes was saying it on Wednesday, that they're going to try and make it a match. They're going to do one better than last time. It's going to be, you've mastered the headset. Next game at launch, there'll be a VR version built into the game, so everyone can enjoy the game at launch together, whether it's in VR or not.
I think that was one of my 2024 predictions. Wes may have said it as well, but I agree with that. But I also think that Resident Evil 9 is too far off for that to be our next PSVR2 version, our next PSVR2 mode. I feel like we will get to...
When did RE8 come out? I mean, I know they've been working on other stuff as well,
the game itself and not the VR version?
Yeah. That was May 2021, yeah. Okay.
So I do think we're maybe like, we've got, I don't think it's coming out. I don't think 9's coming out this year. I bet that's a 2025 title. And
okay, that's fair.
I feel like this year at some point we'll get, I think 2 would be the one everybody wants. that everyone would be excited for. Although 7 obviously is something we really want. So I don't think 9 will be the next one, but I do think 9 will happen. And in the meantime, I'm just going to roll the dice and say 2. We're going to get Resident Evil 2 in VR. That's just a random fucking guess.
RE Village VR, is it only on PSVR2? It's not on any other platform?
Yeah, not counting like, just like mods and shit. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. 7 is a PSVR1 exclusive, Village, and 4 remake.
Yeah, I can see Sony splashing the cash going, hey, we'll give you this, just bring RE7 to PSVR2. Like, the idea that, like, all these Resident Evil games you can experience in VR on PSVR2 is would be such an epic trailer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've done one for Ethan. They've done one for, like, Leon Kennedy and, like, the most beloved of the series, and then RE2 would be a great one going back to the classics. I still want to stand next to Nemesis. Dude, the bit in RE3, I feel like it's been long enough to worry about spoilers.
Are you
one of my
talking about
favorite
remake,
scenes,
or are you talking about the original?
The remake. One of my favorite bits out of that entire game is when you're climbing up the ladder out of the sewer, and as you get to the top, Nemesis is there and he grabs your head. It's such a holy shit moment. That in VR would be just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and Capcom's actually really good about keeping you in VR for those kind of segments and just being like, you're going to experience this in first person in VR. Whereas like a lot of other developers would flip to a cutscene. Although RE3 remake was third person, just like RE4 was. And so I guess anything that I experienced in Resident Evil 7 or Village cannot be, it's not good for comparison. Sandy232 on our Discord says, hashtag viewer takeover. Have you heard anything about Returnal being ported to PSVR2? Haven't heard anything, but I will say Returnal seems to be a game where, when you get the Unreal VR injector, or you've got people demonstrating their headsets, it's a game that people keep using. And so Housemarque and Sony would be out of their minds not to go, this is a game that people want so desperately in VR that it's one of the first games they try with the Unreal injector, that it's being demonstrated in VR, here and there, whatever. And it just seems like one of those games that like is a no-brainer. A lot of people, I think, at first thought, hey, this is a third-person action game. It's not going to work in first-person VR. And then now that we've got proof that it works perfectly in VR, first person, they would be insane not to pay attention to that.
Yeah, they might have to do some tweaks. I don't know how you feel about this, but like in the mechanics, because of the bullet hell, being in third person definitely lends itself to giving you an advantage over first person when dealing in a bullet hell space. Mm-hmm. But I do think if maybe, as long as the bullets don't hit your hands and head, you know what I mean, kind of thing, then you're all right. I think they might have to do some tweaking there. But I haven't seen any of the long-term playing with that. I've seen a lot of video footage, and the thing I see again and again is people mentioning that when you shoot the bullets, you can see like it picking up leaves off the ground, stuff you wouldn't have noticed playing it regularly. And I know seeing on Ian Higton's stream, him just holding up the gun and looking at it and going, for a game that wasn't built for first person, the gun looks so good in your hand up close. Like, it just shows you how well it is. But yeah, Returnal was the PSVR2 launch title I was dreaming of, and I know a lot of people feel that way. So yeah, the injector stuff we've talked about a lot, and it makes me excited because I think it does. If you see natural buzz, you don't have to worry. Oh, there's a Returnal port, so if we develop one, people aren't going to buy it because they've already got one. No, people will play the official one. That is the one people want to play, because it's the same with like RE Village. Wes had played the mod, hadn't he? And he says it was really, really good. But then he's like, but I don't know how much of this I want to play because I think at that point I think we probably knew that the PSVR2 one was coming out. But even so, you're always gonna, if you've had a good time playing a mod, you're gonna want to play the official port.
And it
has trophies.
And PC VR gaming is like, pretty. I don't want to start making random claims or accusations, but it's low on the totem pole, right? A lot of people have PSVR 2 because they don't want to do PC gaming or do PC VR gaming or have a PC that's powerful enough to run all these things. And so you're dealing with, I think, much different crowds here. Yes, a lot of VR enthusiasts, people who love VR, are going to have multiple headsets. But I don't think that's everybody. I think that's a pretty low number, to be honest. Reth over on our Discord, Reth1142, writes #VR takeover. What are your ideas on how Sony could entice more people to buy PSVR2? Specific games, IPs, social apps, collaborations with streaming services. What would convince the non-believers? Myles, this is a whole episode right here.
Yeah.
So if you could control Sony for one day, if you go in and be like, take this one suggestion in order for PSVR2 to be a raving success, what would that one suggestion, that was the only amount that they would only listen to one of your ideas and take that and run with it. What would be your one suggestion?
It would be every year release a VR port of a first-party Sony game.
Wow.
As in, just have a flagship. It's because, Spider-Man 2 on the flat screen. I'm not talking about VR. When they release that, that's done years, like 3 years in advance, and it's coming. But when the hype is there, if they literally said, like 2025, The Last of Us VR, the hype would be unbelievable. I mean, just the way you reacted that, and I think about that. Yeah. And to be fair, I think that Naughty Dog haven't ruled it out, but I do think they've got their priorities right. They've just had the TV show, so they were right to do a remake of The Last of Us 1 to have some parity with the second game, remastering the second so it is on PS5 as well, as they're now working on the second season of the show. I understand the criticisms of people saying, oh, why are they doing a remaster and a remake and stuff? Point is, the people that love it, and I can't wait to play the remaster with the roguelike mode, that is definitely where their priority should have been. And obviously, I wish instead of doing that factions live service game, I just keep thinking, if only they put their energy and time into porting the first game to VR, Yeah. I would have been happy with just a Factions 2, like on The Last of Us Part 2. So anyway, yeah, that's my long-rounded way of saying that I actually don't think it's out of the question that The Last of Us comes to VR. But I do think if every year they just said this game is going to be playable on PSVR 2, I think that becomes the kind of the North Star of a marketing campaign every year. That's the hero content. And it's like something that VR gamers can celebrate every year of like, what's it going to be next year? And then it's also not asking too much in terms of, I'm not saying do it every quarter or something like that. And it's not to say it wouldn't be a big undertaking as well. But your first party studios, you kind of say to all your top tier first party studios, in this cycle, I want you to do a VR game of a VR port of one of your games, so that it's not putting too much pressure on one studio. So yeah, that would be mine.
Frank's in the chat. What's up, Frank? Says Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah,
with a big fat.
I mean,
duh after it.
Yeah,
yeah, I agree, Frank. Grand Theft Auto 5 is obviously one of the highest selling games ever made. And you got to wonder, like, is it enough at this point, right? Grand Theft Auto 5 is on its way out. Grand Theft Auto 6 is on its way in.
Would the window's narrowing,
right? Yeah. Have a PSVR 2 version day and date with that, and of course, whatever Grand Theft Online evolves into as the next game comes out. So, yeah, I mean, these are good answers. Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto, these are great answers for what games should Sony and Sony partners be focused on in order to make PSVR 2 a success, which, of course, the game catalog is always going to be one of the things that sells the hardware faster. It makes believers out of non-believers. But I also think in order to convert more people, we've got a massive price problem, right? Lots of people have a PS5, 40 million people, PS5. The fact that PSVR 2 isn't just like, I don't know, hitting 10% of that audience already means it's too expensive for most consumers. I'm totally fine with it because, like, this is my whole life, right? I'm totally fine with it because this is how I consume video games now. Like, I don't really play flat screen games. So, like, is $550 a lot of money? Yeah, but, like, I'm getting a lot of value out of it. Most people don't understand how much they're going to use it. And so I think someone just needs to take a massive loss on this thing and get it into more people's hands and make their money up on just tons of software. I mean, $300 is the magical price point. And we're not going to get there. Obviously, you can't just drop the price from $550 to $300 overnight, but like they need to start making moves to get there, right? Like it needs to come down to $400 as soon as possible. And then the next year, $300, right? Just like get as many people in. I mean, if they want to push VR, you know, they could be completely content just having a headset out there so that people can continue to play VR games on PlayStation 5. They could be totally content. If you want it, you got it. Here it is. But we're not going to take a massive loss on it. But yeah. Who else we got? Rody says, hashtag VR takeover. With the success of Ancient Dungeon, is there any other upcoming indie game you're hoping slips in and blows people away? There's a lot of upcoming indie games.
I mean, Madison VR, I don't feel like is going to slip in. Like but it is an indie.
Yeah,
you know, it's a massive, like, well-renowned game that won so many awards, but it is an indie one. Is it hopes or we think it's going to blow people away?
Hope,
yeah. I mean, this Minecrafty looking one.
Cube.
Yeah, I hope there's something there that, yeah.
Developer was in the chat on Monday's show. I can't remember, man. Every day runs together.
Yeah.
but yeah, that Cube should be coming out this month, and I mean, it looks beautiful. I can only imagine how great this looks in the headset. So yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, like, I really hope that, you know, I don't know if Ultra Wings 2 is on everybody's radar, but with that game coming out supposedly in the next 10-ish days or so, you know, I asked them over on Twitter. I DM'd them and asked if they had, you know, they've been advertising what the frame rate would be, and they said it's going to be a native 90, which is really nice, man. It's like, you know, we're getting a flight game with tons of missions, tons of content. Sorry, sirens on my end, with a proven track record. Like Ultra Wings 1 was awesome, and obviously Ultra Wings 2 has been out on other platforms for a while. So I think if Ultra Wings 2 doesn't kind of blow us away, I would be surprised. So that's my hope. Wow, a lot of sirens. Let's see. Nihilist Ryan says, hashtag viewer takeover. Maybe you need a brief segment on the PlayStation Store upcoming games like Rainbow Reactor Fusion or Operation Serpens. I just got my Operation Serpens keys last night. So I mean, I can absolutely talk about that soon enough. But it is, yeah, maybe we should have a segment on every show or once a week where we just look at the PlayStation Store and say, what the fuck is this game? And then look up some trailers and do some research live, and everyone can be on the same page. What else we got? Snafu in the chat, sorry, not in the chat, on Discord says, hashtag viewer takeover. Have you guys played Resist by Binary Mill? And do you think there's a chance of it coming to PSVR2? Man, if you guys haven't seen Resist, let me throw the trailer for you right now. Resist is, the Binary Mill is very hit or miss with me. Like, I think they have great ideas. But I don't love all their games. This looks like a great fucking Spider-Man game, Spider-Man type game. You're swinging through the city. I don't really know what the gameplay loop is like, but it looks great. The people who played it says it's really fun, and the fact that they just brought Gun Club VR to PSVR2 and did a pretty fucking good job of it, might I add, makes me think that Binary Mill has PSVR2 in their sights, and it's time for them to start porting all of their games over. And so hopefully this is the one they concentrate on next, because, you know, Mini Motor Racing X was fine. Rush VR was great, but this looks like the game I want to play. And so fingers crossed. I think the probability is pretty high.
Yeah, it does look fun.
Shades of Grey Matter in the chat says, I chatted with briefly with the Arcane Age devs on their Discord, and they said they're trying to give a performance and fidelity mode. So 90 hertz or 60 reprojected on PSVR2, which is great. I think if that's an option, I think we should get that more often. I mean, don't you think, Myles? Like, certain people care about frame rates, and some people don't even notice reprojection. And so when there's people who don't notice reprojection and they just want the game to be as beautiful as possible, like, give that to them. But for me, I'm like, always performance. In VR, always performance. Definitely want to see the slickest frame rate I can. Man, Arcane Age looks so good. Hopefully that comes out. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint. I think we have some more tips here before we call it a day, Myles. Make sure I don't screw this up. Grandpa's Barbecuer Game Cat with the level 1 membership. Don't forget, be a member over here. Get to send us free tips. Imagine if RE9 was VR only for the first 6 months. Jesus Christ. I mean, totally improbable. Never going to happen, at least not in the next 5 years or so.
Capcom's like, how could we kneecap ourselves from success anymore?
Right. Right? It's just, there's no way it could happen. I don't think there's enough money Sony could ever throw at them. Be like, here's $20 billion. It's like, okay, maybe then we'll do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that would definitely convince some people to buy a VR headset. That's for sure. I love the fantastical suggestions like that, where it's like, man, if money just wasn't an issue, these deals could definitely be made, but there's just no way. Friends Have Xbox with the 7 Canadian says, maybe Capcom will throw a curveball and give the 2002 RE1 remake a VR version. Now, that's pretty cool, because
I've actually never played the original Resident Evil.
Or the remake?
No,
you played no version of Resident Evil 1.
Of the original Resident Evil, yeah.
All right. I don't know.
So that would be amazing. Like, it'd be a great way to start it off. So yeah, RE2 was my like when I knew about it.
Yeah. I mean, I love Resident Evil 1. I love every version of it I've ever played. Like, I've played it on the DS. I've played it on the Resident Evil 1 was what caused me to get a PlayStation 1 over a Sega Saturn. That was the decision maker for me. Yeah. I love it. I think the original PlayStation 1 version is my favorite. But I guess, if we were porting one into VR, I think we'd go with that GameCube remake. Not that the environments are like 3D or anything. It's all still, really well animated and rendered 2D backgrounds, but still. Macho, the real estate procrasting game cat with the $5 says, Capcom has so many GGs for VR. Good games for VR. Monster Hunter, Dragon's Dogma, Bionic Commando, Mega Man. Just keep feeding PSVR2. Capcom, please. We want them all.
I do think of Capcom as kind of like the Insomniac games of PS5. Like, when I think about who's really waving the flag for the platform.
Why isn't Insomniac Games the Insomniac Games? Like, they have so much VR expertise. They have so many PC VR games that are really well regarded. Where the fuck are their VR games? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Ratchet & Clank in VR would be incredible.
I mean, sure, but there's like, completely new IPs that the PC VR side of things saw. It's like how? Why aren't those being ported? Like, there's got to be some kind of deal going on. Or Sony,
unfortunately, from the leaks of like the next 10 years, it looks like that VR isn't on their radar.
But also, like, I don't think that's anything to like be concerned about. No, mostly because Insomniac is working on so many different things that would you really, if you were Sony, would you be like, hey, we're gonna designate part of your team to port your older VR games into PSVR 2? It's like, no, get a studio that's really good at porting VR games to do that.
And this goes back to the thing about priorities. Like, the flat screen division of PlayStation at the moment is having to play catch up after this like lag from the pandemic. and playing catch up there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're going to tell, no, you keep working on the thing that we need to, have these massive hitters. And also there's a big reckoning happening with like the cost of games, and is it gonna is it sustainable? Yeah.
Where are we at? Oh man, still more tips. Pietrek F, what's up with the 12 Plantains? Says Last of Us, Cyberpunk, GTA, but people want Returnal.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Returnal would be the easier one to do. I think, if you Last of Us, Cyberpunk, GTA, amazing choices, and would sell a lot of headsets, I think. Just more work involved in getting those into VR. Want them all. Alejandro D, Cat Allergic Game Cat with the level 3 membership, says, hey, Brian. Hey, Alejandro. Thanks for the awesome tips. Got Ancient Dungeon and got the lenses a month ago. Hopefully you can make an accessories video. Yeah, that's something AJ and I have been planning on doing forever. Just doing like literally an episode of GAMESCAST where we just show you guys, the globular cluster and different lenses and all sorts of different accessories that have been sent to us that are just piling up in boxes around us. So AJ, soon enough, I actually need to mail some of this shit to AJ so that like he can try it out, and then we can have a whole episode devoted to an accessory episode. So, whew, Myles.
Brian.
I think it's time for some 20 questions. What do you think?
Yep, as long as I've got help from the Game Cats, as always.
For real. So everybody in the chat, you guys only have 6 minutes and 20 yes or no questions to figure out what PSVR1 or PSVR2 game I'm thinking of. Help them out, guys. This is not an easy game. I'm going to put 6 minutes up on the clock right now. I can feel my brain fizzling out, Myles, as the minutes go by. Are you ready?
I'm not ready, but
okay,
we're going to go for it.
Okay. On your mark. Get this. Go.
Is this on PSVR?
Yep.
It's on PSVR. And is it on PSVR2?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So on both. Does the game feature multiplayer?
No.
No multiplayer. Okay. And is it primarily a first-person shooter?
In a pretty loose sense of the word, or a pretty loose sense of the genre, yeah.
Okay. Let's have a look. Just looking at the chat. Does the game therefore focus more on puzzles than it does combat?
Not more, but there is. Okay. There's a bit of puzzle solving. There's a bit of other stuff to do for sure. That's fine.
Okay. And I always ask this question: is it set in a futuristic or sci-fi world?
I would say no, but okay. I think parts of the game are open to interpretation.
Okay.
I would say,
but not futuristic.
I mean, let's just go with no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Is it a PSVR exclusive?
Oh no, it is not.
No, not exclusive. Okay. Does it have a realistic art style?
No.
Not realistic art style. Okay. Is it based on a popular IP?
You mean like from outside of gaming? Is it like
from outside of gaming? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Is there melee combat in this?
Yeah, that's 10.
And I was going to trip on my own question then.
Sirens on my hands.
Are the enemies other humans?
No.
And that doesn't include zombies because zombies have turned. So
I stand by my statement. No.
No. Can you go in vehicles in this game?
Can you go in vehicles in this game? No, I don't believe so.
Right. So just as a recap, people, it's on PSVR and PSVR2. There's no multiplayer. Loosely, it's a first-person shooter. Some puzzling, not futuristic. It's not exclusive to PlayStation VR. Not a realistic art style. Not based on a popular IP outside of gaming. There is melee combat. Enemies are non-human, and there aren't vehicles.
Friends have Xbox say this is zombie racism.
Can I get a clarification? The question I did about, is it a first-person shooter? We talked about loosely. Can we just confirm it is first-person?
Yep.
Yeah, it's first-person. Okay.
Yep. It's just not strictly a shooter, is what I was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would it be a top 25 debate consideration?
Nope.
Not top 25. Okay. Is it a bad game?
I don't think so. No. No. Bad? No. Average? Yeah. Man, based on
PSVR,
based on the suggestions in the chat, we are far, far away.
Yeah, I know. I'm no offense, people. This is PSVR and PSVR2. Is it an open world game?
No.
Does it all take place in one world?
No.
Like it's not segmented by levels.
No.
That's what I mean.
It's segmented.
No.
That's 15.
It's segmented.
You only got 1 minute and 9 seconds and 4 questions and a guess.
Does it have a trophy list that you'd be happy to grind, like you'd want to complete?
Not really, no.
No, not really.
No. In fact, I don't think I care about completing this trophy list.
Okay. And I am so lost with this. Is it arcadey?
Yeah. I mean,
okay. Is it arcadey in terms of like scores? Do you get scores in it?
If there's a score system, I don't remember it being pertinent. But it feels arcadey to play. There's more to it than a standard arcade game.
Man, I'm going to kick myself when I hear this.
Probably not.
Oh, man, I'm out of time, aren't I?
You get to about 10 seconds left.
I'm not even going to take a guess. I generally don't know. Is it Crisis Brigade?
It is not Crisis Brigade, Myles.
I didn't think it was.
Coming out November 7th, 2023. So very recently on both PSVR1 and PSVR2. Anybody? That's right. It's Kill It With Fire VR.
Oh. Kill It With Fire?
Yeah.
Did it come out on PSVR? It did, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it came out at the same time. I think it took a little bit.
No, you're right.
PSVR1. But yeah,
I would have.
It's funny because so frequently when we talk about PSVR1 games that are also on PSVR2, there's this massive gap between the times that they came out, right? And so I'm always thinking about like earlier in the generation, like went about completely different games than something that came out very recently.
And it wouldn't have been Crisis Brigade because it has humans that you're fighting. I just picked one randomly from the chat.
No, it always happens.
Good,
Silver Nexus.
Good choice, man.
Silver Nexus.
I mean, I'm going through.
And 100%. Like you start off with lots of like, frying pans or whatever's around the environment. There's a lot of fucking guns in this game. A lot of fucking guns. And even finger guns. Boom, 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 boom. Which never run out of ammo.
Man. Boom, boom, boom. And it's a first time pick, this game.
Oh, no way. Thanks, Looper.
I have to say, there's quite a few PSVR2 that are also on PSVR that throw me off. Like, if it's a game that's on both platforms, that's when I can often get thrown off, because straight away your mind goes to games that were ported. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ones that were released on PSVR2 and PSVR at the same time. Those are the tricky ones, like the Down and Out. I got you on before, similar sort of vein.
Seriously. Also, I try not to think about Down and Out whenever possible. It's like, if I'm having a bad day, that Down and Out just makes it worse. So we try not to think about it.
Yeah. Sorry, bringing that up. That's sore spot.
All right. Hey, before we get to the end of the show, I want to give a shout out to 4D because 4D, as always, did his thing with Walkabout Mini Golf. And so he made like his hole-in-one compilation where like he went around the world in 80 days. But here's what I want you guys to do. If you want to see 4D, the four-dimensional GameCast, awesome videos, which is always like really painstakingly showing hole-in-ones on every single hole, go over to Discord and check it out in the Clip of the Week channel and check it out because he puts a lot of time and effort into it. I get concerned that like people don't want to see that. They don't want to see spoilers if they haven't played the game yet or haven't played the course. And so we've got a different Clip of the Week this week, but make sure you go over to Discord and check out all the work you put into that. And sorry I didn't respond to you earlier today, 4D. I wasn't awake until right before the show. So, all right, you guys. Thank you, everybody who helps. Who
did no one get that game in the top in the 20 questions? No one in the chat got it.
I didn't see anybody, but I was also making sure that I was like checking.
Sure, yeah.
PlayStation.
I don't think anyone did.
Yeah. Thanks everybody who helps the channel run. We appreciate you dearly, from all the moderators to Sci-Fi Game Cat Henry that puts timestamps into the show, RyePop that gets us uploaded to podcast services of your choice. I don't check in on the podcast very often, but RyePop keeps a close eye on it. So make sure you leave reviews, telling people how much you love PSVR GamesCast Live over on Spotify, wherever you listen to it. And so, because we want to make sure that it's getting into as many hands as it should get into. But thanks, you guys are fucking awesome. Thanks everybody who helps the channel run financially. Patreon.com/withoutparolgames over here by being a member. People who tip during the show, people who hang out, shoot the shit in the chat. Of course, everybody who sits back, watches the show, doesn't say a goddamn word. We know you're out there, and we love you just as much. Happy Friday, Myles.
Happy Friday, Brian. Happy Friday, Game Cats. Have a wonderful weekend, and hopefully see you Sunday for Among Us VR.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Steve IRE in the chat says, one day those spiders are the ones who will use the guns. Dude, can you imagine if you were playing Kill It with Fire, and you're running around and you're shooting spiders thinking you have the upper hand, and then one spider comes out and he's got finger guns on all 8 arms?
That's amazing.
It would be amazing. Yeah. Myles, do you want to set up this Clip of the Week for us?
God, it feels weird actually doing a Clip of the Week like this.
I know. I'm going to try to stay on top of this shit. I'm bad at it.
Yeah, no, cool, man. I edited this little clip because it was just an amazing moment on Among Us VR. I just think this perfectly encapsulates what most of the environments are when you're dealing with kids who are hilarious. All I will say in this is I was the black bean, if that's what they're called, or cream. I was not an imposter in this clip, but as this kid is like saying who he thinks is the imposter, I'm stood right next to him saying nothing, so he sounds like really, really nervous, and then I play a little trick on him at the end, and yeah,
I'll enjoy this shit out.
And I saw you too as well.
I to do my task, and then I saw Purple dead. And I saw Black go the way where I saw Black go where I saw Black go where the way is to. Black took the pattern when Black was. I was following Black because I wasn't trying to follow Black. It's just my tack was over where Black was. And then when I went to And then when I went to electrical, I saw purple.
I'm skipping. I have no idea what Green was on
Two
about.
people. I'm not gonna put a vote. I don't know who.
Ah,
I'm gonna kill you.
It's the flailing arms.
he said to me, "I'm gonna kill me."
And everyone's had enough of him.
He's gonna kill me. He said he's gonna kill me.
Dude, so good. Chris Forthenberry sums it up perfectly in the chat. Says, "Bless his heart, he's trying to say something."
I know. And I'm literally like, as he's talking about it could be me, I'm stepping closer and closer to him. So he's trying to tell the others about it's him, and I'm just there like, really? Is it me? Is it me? And then I like the others are saying, yeah, well, like it's just like, yeah, we're done with this guy. Dude, absolutely adorable.
You torturing this kid is I'm sorry, the least funny thing about this.
Yes.
Because this kid is like, if you could think of like the most generic conversation you could have with a 6-year-old, this is it. This is how 6-year-olds talk. And like it's, oh my God, it's who in the chat said it? I think was it Geisen? Yeah, Geisen says adorable yet frustrating. And I think that sums it up perfectly.
But it just like, oh man, I've just had so much fun playing Among Us. Like as I've mentioned before, I never really bought into the flat screen version because obviously not everyone uses microphones, whereas on VR naturally everyone has the microphone, which is definitely an important element of it. And there've just been some incredible moments on it. There was one where it was 4 of us left, 2 imposters, 2 innocent, and we'd done all our tasks. We're waiting in the main room, and then these 2 guys come in and go, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" And they stab us both at the same time, and that was it. And it was just like, there's just so much magical moments. And then there was 1 imposter left, 2 innocents. They do the what's it called, sabotage, and it's the one where 2 of you in the room, 1 on each side, puts a handprint on, and so we're running there, and I'm like, he literally just has to stab one of us and that's it. And he waited by the button and we managed to press it just in time. So there's some really good moments on it. Like there's just so much magic. So really looking forward to playing with some Game Cats on Sunday.
Oh, dude, the chat is fucking on fire as always. Izzard says probably a 45-year-old man with a voice changer. 4D, the 4-dimensional game cat says Timmy fell down the well. Steve Irie says it's like a South Park episode. I mean, fucking spot on.
Oh my goodness,
spot on.
Knock because it's been free for the Quest Plus or whatever it is just full of young kids who are saying like, "Does it be my friend?" And it's just God. Unbelievable, and like, "You play this game?" And it's just unbelievable. So every time you go into a match on Knock with some randoms, you're like, "Who are we against?" "We're against a pro," and they're like, "What is this?" And it's like, "Yeah, I think we're going to win this match."
Unbelievable. I love it. And a great way to send you guys off for the weekend. I've got plans with my family tomorrow, and I've been sleeping a lot and just trying to get caught up on life and normalcy. I'm going to do my best to have a PSVR this weekend, but no promises. I apologize in advance if it doesn't come out. Other than that, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Be nice to each other. We love you all.
Bye-bye.